Hi folks, this is the introduction to your biochemistry unit. We're going to start off with some basic chemistry. We need to introduce to you the idea of the structure of the atom. So as we begin, it's important to know what the matter is that makes up all things on the planet and in fact all things in the universe. An atom is a structure that's made up of three basic fundamental parts. The proton, which has a positive charge, the neutron that has a neutral or no charge, and those two particles are located in the nucleus of an atom. And then around the outside, traveling at almost the speed of light, is an electron with a negative charge. And it's those electrons and those protons and those neutrons that interact to form all the compounds and molecules that make up life and the material that sustains it. A compound is a substance that has a combination of different atoms in known ratios. So we have different types of compounds that we can form. They can be joined by ionic bonds. They can be joined by covalent bonds. And then you have a really kind of a mysterious force called a van der Waals force. And a van der Waals force is this attraction between oppositely charged molecules. And this is important because small critters like anoles and tree lizards, frogs, they have the ability to climb walls and seemingly defy gravity. It's not that they are defying gravity, it's just that their feet and toes are constructed in a way that take advantage of what are known as van der Waals forces, which is a slight attraction between oppositely charged molecules. Now, the importance of water in this case, water being a molecule that sustains life on our planet, water is H2O. And H2O looks like this. It's shown here as oxygen in red and hydrogen in blue. And water is known as a universal solvent. And the reason for this is because water has a positive side and a negative side. So the oxygen is bonded with a hydrogen, and there's a pretty specific angle that forms between here. It's 107 degrees, I believe, 107 point something. Uh, but the hydrogen has one electron that buzzes around it. And so does this one. It has one electron that buzzes around it. And oxygen has an attraction to that because it has a whole bunch of protons in its nucleus. That positively charged nucleus is going to draw that electron this way. And so that electron is going to spend more time over here than over there. What results is this. You end up with an oxygen over here that is slightly negatively charged because of those electrons. And then you have the hydrogens that are over here that are left as just a slightly positively charged proton from their nucleus. So you end up with a positive side over here and a negative side over here. And it operates much like a magnet. There's a positive side and a negative side. And so atoms or substances like salt, NaCl, Na has a positive charge and Cl has a slightly negative charge. If you mix salt, this is sodium chloride, into water, the sodium, which is positively charged, is attracted to that side. And the chlorine, which is negatively charged, is attracted to that side. And so they get ripped apart and they dissolve. That is what dissolving is. It's the separation of a material after it's mixed into a solvent. And that is the term universal solvent. Right? It is universal because water has the ability to dissolve many types of molecules. There are some that do not dissolve in water, though, and fats are some of them. They are non-polar molecules. So most of the reactions that happen in water happen in solution, and many of them require water. We're going to study two specific chemical reactions that you're going to need to know about. Water also has the ability to form ions or charged particles, so they can actually dissociate or separate from each other. The term is associate, and if you dissociate, you don't get involved with something anymore. Well, water is a unique material again because you can actually separate, and you can make this little OH negatively charged, and you can have this floating around hydrogen that's positively charged because they separated from each other. And this is how we can make acids and bases. And certain materials, when you dissolve them into water, you get lots of these floating around. And that would be a highly acidic material. All right, and then some materials, when they dissolve in there, instead of getting lots of extra hydrogens, you get lots of extra OHs. And you have all these OHs floating around. And those are all negative. Those would be bases. All right, now there's more than one way to define acids and bases, but we do measure them all the same way. All right, and that's with the pH scale. The pH scale runs from 0 to 14, 0 being very, very acidic, and 14 being very, very basic. And smack dab in the middle is pure water. Pure water has a pH of 7. It's important that you know that, and it's important that you understand that your body takes advantage of the properties of water to do lots of different things. Like in your stomach, you have hydrochloric acid. That's hydrogen and chlorine that mix in the fluids of your stomach that are able to break down materials. There's, right about here, is the pH of 3, and that's essentially the pH of some soft drinks and grapefruit juice. But in your in your small intestine, the pH is different. The pH in your small intestine is closer to a pH of 9. And so different chemical reactions can happen as a result of those changes in pH. You probably recognize bleach down here. Bleach is a very strong base, and I would say a very weak acid, right? Because it's so acidic, or excuse me, it's so basic. It is important to recognize that each change in number on the pH scale is a 10 times or 10-fold increase in strength. So going from 7, which is neutral, each change in number is a 10-fold increase in the concentration of hydrogen ions, or OH ions. And that's going to make it a stronger acid or a stronger base. At that point, really all it comes down to is what chemical reactions are going to happen. And that's where we're going to go into our next topic, which is the two most important chemical reactions for the biochem unit, which are the hydrolysis and dehydration synthesis reactions. And we'll cover those in our next video. All right, have a great day.